Well, it's Q&A Friday, and this time my internet works. Good morning, or good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you happen to be in the world. Welcome to the VoiceOver Huddle on the #1 voiceover-related YouTube channel on the YouTubes. 84,000 plus subscribers and 1,500 zero-cost videos for you to watch and learn more about the voiceover industry and how to grow and sustain your business. My name is Mike Hathcote. I'm a full-time voice actor and voiceover coach, and every day we just hop on here to talk about voiceover and voiceover-related topics. And once again, I'm glad you're here. Don't forget to like and subscribe and hit the notification bell so you can get this stuff quick time. And then also don't forget to chime in on the chat. We're going to do some shout-outs just in a few minutes. Just tell me where you're watching from. And of course, since it is Q&A Friday, go ahead and drop in your questions. Happy to answer those here in just a sec. By the way, today is the last day to pick up John Drennan's Fiverr Masterclass. This is the replay of the class he did a couple of months ago for us. It's at a super sale price. So tonight at midnight is when that ends. It's going to go back up to the retail price. He covers all the things that are working now on Fiverr after all those recent changes that has happened over at Fiverr. So if you're interested in jumping into Fiverr or already into Fiverr and have seen maybe your jobs go down a bit or maybe more than a bit, that's the one to watch because he kind of brings everybody up to date on all the latest changes and what is working now. Also, speaking of Fiverr, this Monday, I'm going to be announcing this month's live masterclass that kind of is it kind of goes hand in hand with Fiverr, but not exactly. So that's kind of why we put Fiverr on sale this week, because that's going to lead us right into our monthly masterclass this month. Can you guess what it is? Maybe put what you think it is in the chat. And of course, I'm going to let that out of the bag on Monday. Okay. So hopefully you've got plenty of questions, because since my internet went out last Friday, I wasn't able to do Q&A Friday. So hopefully you've got 2 weeks of questions. So if you do, drop them in there. But while we're waiting on questions to pop in, yesterday I mentioned that the movie Roadhouse has a tie-in to the voiceover industry. And I ended the live huddle yesterday without giving you the answer to that. So I'm going to give you another chance to put that answer in the question. I had a couple people email me with their guesses, but go ahead and put your answer to that question. What does the movie Roadhouse, 1988 with Patrick Swayze, what does that movie have to do with the voiceover industry? Put that in the chat, and we'll see who's on top of things. All right. Let's see what questions we have and who's in today. Let's see. There's Edward from Jacksonville, Florida. He's the first one in today. Hello to you. Donovan says, hello everyone from Donovan, or yo everyone from Donovan from South Africa. Have an awesome Friday. Much love. Well, thank you, buddy. You too. Jason says, good morning from Kearney, Nebraska. And there's JJ. Happy Friday to all. Sorry. And there's Sean from Longview. Good morning. And David from Hamilton, Ontario. I'm sorry about my voice. It's been a long week. And there's Sally from Plano, Texas. And there's John from Denver. Terry says, good voiceover after... I'm sorry, guys. Give me a second. Oh, goodness gracious. What's going on? Terry says, good voiceover afternoon from Fallston, Maryland. What's your thought on the use of plugins for voiceover? I don't mind plugins. I use 2 in mine. But remember what I always say, and this is something I talked about a few weeks ago, always try to fix the problem on the input. We talked about this leading up to George Whittam's class last month, where, plugins are fine. And like I said, I use them, but I only use them because I need to use them. I use a declicker to get rid of some extraneous mouth noise, and I use a very, very, very mild denoise plugin called NS1 from Waves. So if you need them, use them. That's what they're there for. Just don't rely 100% on them. A lot of people or a lot of companies now have put out plugins that are supposed to be just, the best at cleaning up all your audio without any need of, a recording booth and whatever. Those are kind of hit or miss. But when it comes to little things like, a denoise or a declicker or a de-esser, if you have too much sibilance in your reads, those are fine to use. Denise says, happy Friday from Long Island. And Don says, what's a good average of auditions someone does before getting their first job? I've done well over 150 so far. I've heard a good average is about 250 for some people. Wow. Okay. Well, first of all, it depends on where you're getting your auditions. Is it on pay-to-plays? Is it, direct from a production house, or how are you getting the auditions? Are they coming in from an agent? So it really that part depends a lot. Now, I wouldn't say there's an average or there's kind of a rule of thumb. I mean, some people get auditions right out of the gate. Some people, it takes a while to kind of build up their audition skills. So I'm afraid there's really not an answer to that. I do know people who have done hundreds of auditions on, pay-to-play sites and not gotten anything. There's so many variables there. Your skill set, your audio quality, all that stuff factors in. So there's really no hard and fast answer to that, Don. I'm sorry. I don't have an answer for you. But I will say that the more auditions you do, the better your chances are, as long as you've gotten good training and, have audition skills, because there is definitely a skill set to auditioning well. Whether it's, the speed at which you get your auditions in, which is a factor on places like pay-to-plays. Obviously, your skill set. Are you able to give a good, authentic read and not sound like you're reading? Are you able to follow the directions that they've given? So many different factors kind of go into that. There's Charlie from Sparta, Wisconsin. What do you do when auditioning to keep from using your audition without paying you for it? Oh, so, okay, yeah. There's a couple of strategies that you can use here. You can either watermark it, which I never do. Put a little tone in the background or a little beep in the middle of it somewhere so they can't use it. Some people do that. Most of the places that I get auditions from, I'm not worried about them taking it because they're legitimate, agencies or rosters or production houses. I'm not worried about that. The only time that I would be slightly concerned if it was a brand new client or potential client and they wanted an audition, one thing I might do is not read all the script. If they have a whole script in there, I'll only read part of the script, and maybe 30 seconds of it so that they kind of know what I'm going to sound like without them being able to take it and use it for the full project. So those are a couple of strategies you can use, but usually I don't even bother doing anything about that. Once again, just like yesterday, I try to put faith in humanity first and foremost, and then it's never really bit me in the butt. Hey, Dennis from Grant Park, Illinois. That one is a Dennis, not a Denise. And there's Ron from Grand Haven, Michigan. And Grady from Ithaca, New York. There's Andrew from Latvia. Sean says, hey, what's your website for VO merch? VOmerch.com. Easy enough, right? VOmerch.com. That's where you can get all the voiceover-related swag, mouse pads, t-shirts, hoodies, hats, all kinds of cool stuff that's all voiceover-related, cool t-shirts with different voiceover related slogans and funny things and whatever. So check it out. VOmerch.com. Matt says, happy Friday from the day job lunch table here in Central Connecticut. Let's see. It jumped on me again. Dang it. I lost my place. Come on, come on, come on. Okay, there we are. Gosh, it jumped way down. What's your advice on pursuing voice acting while being busy working? That's what Andres asked. A lot of people do that, actually. And the cool part about voiceover is you can actually do it in the pockets of your day, as far as auditions and stuff, because most of the time, auditions have at least a 24-hour turnaround time, if not longer. So if you're at your day job for 8 hours a day, you can do those at night. Or, you can do your marketing at night. That's another great thing about email marketing, is that you can do it any time of day. So just do that work around your schedule. Now, when you get to the point of going full time, that's where you can, do like what I'm doing, is just sitting in this chair all day and do work, whether it's marketing work or, auditioning work or actual recording work that's come in. That's when you can kind of decide when it's time to maybe quit your full-time job and do this full-time. But that's up to you as far as how much you need to make every day to pay your bills and all that kind of stuff. So you just kind of have to weigh that. And then when you think you've made or are making enough to kind of rival what you're making full-time, then you can make that jump and jump into full-time and go from there. But everybody's situation is different. Just do it, like I said, in the pockets of your day. I know plenty of people who've done that, who've worked into full-time by just starting part-time. Kate says, greetings from Marietta, Georgia. And there's Kirk from Greenville, South Carolina. Denise's guess is Upwork for what's coming up next week. We'll see. We'll see. Theo says, happy Friday from sunny downtown Chicago. The view of the shimmering Lake Michigan is stunning today. Awesome. That's cool. I bet you that's a cool looking sight. Andrew also says Upwork for maybe what's happening this month. We'll see. You have to stay tuned on Monday. Find out. JJ says, could a person use QuickTime on my Mac to use the program you use? I think VO Pro or something. Wait, what? What would you be using it for, JJ? I'm not sure what the question is referring to. Using QuickTime on your Mac or use the program you use. I'm not sure what program you're referring to. Maybe be a little bit, clarify that just a little bit for me. There's Wiley in Texas. I've been listening to most of your videos over the last few weeks, but always while I'm taking cars apart for my job. I do get sick of this job and I want to use my voice for good. Well, that's great. I mean, like I said before, if you've got a full-time job, work into it. I mean, I do know some people who have literally just left a job and started doing this full-time. That's actually what I did. But some people don't have the luxury of being able to do that. So you can kind of work your way up into it. So just, take it a piece at a time. If you haven't yet, check out the book that I have for less than $10 in the description below. It's the book that I wish I had when I started. So you can check that out. You get the audiobook and the digital version plus 4 free bonus gifts on that if you check that link below. So maybe start there and start working your way into it. And then, of course, show up here every day and ask questions and get feedback. Ooh, good question. Don says, is Source Connect really that important to have? Yes, and here's a perfect example of this. I picked up a job yesterday, or won an audition yesterday for a job that's going to be recording next week. It is a recording session via Source Connect. It had been a minute or two since I'd used Source Connect, but what I always do when I get a job that requires Source Connect is I jump on there and I check the connection to make sure it connects right and works well and stuff, because it can be a little bit not finicky, but there's some stuff that you need to make sure works. Let's just leave it at that. And so I tried it, I tested it out, and it didn't work. And so I checked in it again, and it turns out that a few months ago when we switched our internet provider to a fiber provider, apparently they do shared IPs, which is nerd talk, but your IP is usually, well, everybody has their own IP. Their computer has its own IP, which stands for Internet Protocol. Anyway, how do I explain this? So the internet provider shares an IP amongst lots of people. And apparently what Source Connect needs for the port forwarding, which is also some more nerd speak, but apparently what they need is a dedicated IP, which is what I used to have with my previous provider, which was Cox. I know we're getting into the weeds a little bit here, but so now what I've got to do, and I've already done this, I found it out yesterday, is I need to actually request a dedicated IP from my internet provider so that I can now use Source Connect. So that's in the process of happening. But anyway, Source Connect is pretty important. I wouldn't say go ahead and buy it or sign up for it before you actually get a job that requires it. But to do some of the higher end work, they are going to be requiring that, because what Source Connect does is it gives you a high-speed connection to a studio or an engineer where they're recording on their side and you're speaking on your side. So there's no recording on your part locally. They're recording, you're speaking. Once the session is over, you hang up, they've got the file, they do what they need to do to it. And plus, people can listen in on that same connection. So I wouldn't say it's necessary like right out of the gate, but when you start applying or auditioning for the higher end jobs, those are going to be the ones who require Source Connect. So maybe just when you win a job that actually requires it, then you can go ahead and sign up for it. Just make sure that you sign up in plenty of time, because there is a little bit of a learning curve to figure it out. Grandmaster G, what's up? Ha ha. Dennis says, so while the movie itself isn't about voiceover, it contains several behind-the-scenes examples of where voiceover work comes into play in the filmmaking. Not really. I mean, I'm sure it's got ADR and stuff in it, but that's not where I was going with that, Dennis. But keep guessing. If you've seen it, you should know what I'm talking about here. If you're up on current voiceover trends these days, you should see the correlation between the movie Roadhouse, 1988, Patrick Swayze, and the voiceover industry. Nobody's got any other guesses? Hey, Lynette, happy weekend from Sparks, Nevada. There's Gregory from far north Dallas on the other side of town from Sally. Good morning, all. Oh, it jumped on me again. Dang it. Denise says, Roadhouse and VO, AI lawsuit about simulating actors? No. First of all, there was no such thing as AI in 1988, so I doubt they were able to simulate anything back then. Jason's guess is Upwork for next week. We'll see. That's 3 for Upwork. Wayne says hello. Well, he didn't say hello, but he's chiming in from Port Orchard, Washington, as usual. And there's Joshua from LJ. I'm experiencing some popping in my Adobe Audio since I downloaded some plugins, NS1, and so on. Have you experienced this, and did you adjust the buffer size in Adobe? I've not experienced that, actually. Maybe do a Google search on that or a GPT search and see if other people are having the same, experience there. But no, I've not experienced that. Usually NS1. Well, I will say this. I have heard of people who just jack NS1 up to 100, thinking that that's what they're supposed to do to get rid of all the background noise. That will introduce artifacts into your audio or take away things in your audio. So don't just think, okay, I've got NS1 now, so the goal is to minimize background noise, so I'm just going to jack it to 100. And no, you only need to use enough to get it down below minus 60. Just enough to get it down there to that threshold. If it goes a little past that, into minus 70 or whatever, then that's even better. But, you don't need to just throw it to 100 because that will mess your audio up. So maybe, hopefully you're not doing that, but that could be part of it. Andrew says, how do you treat your voice after a long day of work? Oh, excellent question. And my answer to that is I shut my pie hole. There are days where I'm doing, say, I do a lot of e-learning and longer form reads. And so if I have a day where I'm doing a lot of that, then by the end of the day, I'm pretty cooked. And so I just shut up the rest of the day. Hydrate a lot. My family is like, they know that if I've had a long day, that not to expect me to talk very much in the evenings. Unless it's maybe a Friday night like tonight, then I've got a couple of days of rest in between then and Monday. But if it's like a weekday, Monday through Thursday, and I have a busy day, I'm going to be shutting up at night. Tracy from Rochester, Minnesota. It looks like for a Stream Deck to program my DAW. I was looking for a Stream Deck to program my DAW. Have you used one? Nope. I don't need it. I'm very simplistic when it comes to my equipment. I don't get into a lot of extraneous things like Stream Decks and that kind of stuff. Just microphone, interface, computer. That's all I got. There's Phil in Tokyo, also in Kansas. Gregory says, you speak the truth, Mike. I submitted 3 to 5 auditions a day on VOIce123 for a year and only got 2 non-pay projects. I continue to learn and plug away. Well, okay, so first of all, non-pay projects, I would have just left those alone. But it can be a struggle. But once again, you have to go in prepared. A lot of people think that when they hop on a pay-to-play, that's where you're supposed to start. And that is not the case. Pay-to-plays are typically more successful for you if you've gotten plenty of audition experience other places. So a good way to fail or to get really, really upset and quit is to hop immediately onto a pay-to-play. I see it quite a bit where new talent, they get a DIY demo and then they hop on a pay-to-play site. And then they wonder 200 and 300 auditions later why they haven't worked. And it's because, number one, you haven't been trained on skills, whether it be performance skills or auditioning skills, because there is a skill set just for auditioning. Number two, you may not have good quality demos, and once again, you should only have pro quality demos when you jump on pay-to-play sites like VOIce123. Or voices.com. Those are the two big, leaders. So pro demos, good performance skills, and good auditioning skills. Those are key. And even then, it's hard. The competition is fierce on those sites. So that's why I'm not as big a fan of pay-to-plays as I am going direct to the client who is going to be hiring, because you're going to be up against, instead of being up against hundreds of people, you're going to be up against maybe tens of people or less. So your odds are so much better when you're going direct to the source versus using a platform. Donovan says, where's a great place to start to build a list for direct email marketing? Well, Google. That's what I do, and that's what my assistant does. She just Googles places. And then as far as building a list, I don't start building a list until they reply back. So I used to put everyone that I reached out to, like, cold emails, warm replies, clients. I would put everybody in the CRM. Now, I only track them once they reply back. Then when they reply back, I know that they're interested. I put them in my CRM, and then I can cultivate that relationship. But really, it's just Google. I mean, a lot of people think it's hard to get into email marketing. It's really not. Google is your friend. Just make sure that you're not doing email marketing without pro quality demos and a good website. DIY demos need not apply. Craig says, hello from way too hot Prescott. Nice. Yeah, it's hot today here. I think we broke a record yesterday with 118. It's crazy, man. Sorry, jumped on me again. Give me a minute. Marlene says, good morning all from Fresno, California. I received an invite for data sets for an AI lab for AI model training. No clones. Thoughts? Not a fan of sleeping with the devil. Any of those AI those generative AI voice cloning models, they got to get those voices somewhere, but I'm not going to contribute to it. So anything that kind of has that AI word, keyword in it, I'm staying clear. LTRS says, I received a private invite for what seemed like a trucking company. It is actually private when they get over 300 submissions, then suddenly cancel the job. Yeah. There's all kinds of trickery and stuff that happens on those pay-to-play sites and other places too. But once again, I love working direct with people. It's just so much easier, and you typically can make a lot more money that way. You can play small on those little sites, or you can play big by going direct to the source. JJ says, for video production like you do for the fake auditions for the VoiceOver Blueprint to put audio and video together, I use Final Cut Pro, JJ. Final Cut Pro. QuickTime does not allow you to edit. It only allows you to trim the beginning and the end. It doesn't actually let you put in elements and, a timeline and stuff like that. Andre says, thank you so much about the information and advice. But what if you have your own business and you're trying to pursue voice acting, voiceover work? Well, that's even better then. That means that if you own your own business, then you control your schedule. So you're not tied to a 9 to 5, maybe not. I don't know what your work is or what your, business is. But if you have your own business, that means your schedule is wide open. So maybe throughout the day, you can reply to emails that come in, or you can send auditions in the middle of your actual workday for your other job. So once again, I don't know your schedule or what you do, but it seems like that would be even easier because you're not tied to a desk in some office or someplace, doing something outside somewhere, whatever you do. You've actually got some flexibility. Kenny says, hello from Glasgow, Scotland. Not sure what Source Connect is, but we'll add it to the list of what to look up. Yeah, Source Connect is, like I said, it's a piece of software that connects you to a remote studio and lets them record remotely. So they're recording on their side. You're using your mic and reading from here, and it's a high-speed connection. So that's what Source Connect is. It's usually on a monthly basis, like a subscription. Monthly basis. You can buy it outright for like $800 or something, but I prefer to just do I think it's like $35 a month, and it just auto drafts every month, just so you have it. Craig says, I do know of people who advertise on their sites that they have Source Connect, but don't actually plan to buy it until the client wants it. Yeah, I also have that on my website, that I do have Source Connect, because that is a small signifier of you being a professional. That if you've got Source Connect, you have the ability to do those remote sessions, and so that is a little signal that, hey, I know what I'm doing. I've got the tools that I need to do high-end work. Harold says, I may have load out because I didn't, you probably meant lost out. I may have lost out because I didn't have this, investment when possible. Yeah. I mean, they're not going to make a decision strictly on whether or not you have Source Connect or not, but it is nice to have just in case. And there will be times when you need to use it a lot, and then there'll be times when you may not need to use it, you know. And so I just let it go and just let it auto bill me every month just so I know I've got it. But whenever I do win a job that requires it, like I said earlier, I do check it to make sure that it's up to date, the license is current, everything is good, and I'm glad I did check it because of that IP problem. So we'll get that fixed before the session. Denise says, if the studio records you using Source Connect, what noise floor is acceptable since you aren't doing the processing? How much above -60 can you be? That's a good question. You want to be as close to it as possible. Now, they probably have, they're professionals, so they have plugins and stuff themselves, so they'll be able to take care of, most noise floor situations. If your booth is already built so as to be as low as possible and you're doing other work and using your own plugins and stuff, then that should be enough. Now, just because they have all the plugins and stuff that they need doesn't mean you need to record your session in your kitchen or something. You still need to be in a booth, and you still have to have as low a noise floor as possible so that they can use whatever plugins or tools they have to make it sound good. Kirk says, always be nice until it's time to not be nice. Yes, that's what we talked about yesterday. But what does, he got it. Sean got it. Okay, so Roadhouse, Sam Elliott, who played Wade Garrett in that movie. Sam Elliott is a prolific voice actor. He does the Coors commercials, the Ram commercials. He's got that deep, resonant voice. And he's a legendary voice actor. He's in that movie as Wade Garrett, Patrick Swayze's friend who comes in, and I'm not going to give it away. But Tim from Altoona says, good afternoon from Altoona. People always looking for the Sam Elliott voice. Yep, absolutely. You'll hear Sam Elliott's voice a lot in a lot of directions where they want something gritty and deep and, manly. Nope, afraid not, Dennis. Dennis says, Dalton was always calm until it was time to act. In VO, your calm prep, warming makeup, marking scripts, and understanding the client needs set you up to peak performance when the mic is hot. I mean, that's all true, but Sean got it. It was the Sam Elliott connection. And John says the same thing. Isn't Sam Elliott in Roadhouse? His voice is an example of current trends in the delivery. Yep, that's it. Sam Elliott. Wayne says, I'm on a PC, and every once in a while I get a snap sound, if that is what Joshua has. Just use AutoHeal to remove it. Yeah, if it's just a single pop, like a mouth click or just a single little snap sound or whatever, then you can use AutoHeal to zap it out of there if you're using Adobe Audition. But if, and I don't know if it has anything to do with you being on a PC or not, but could be. Who knows? Could be some interference, all kinds of stuff. Jason says, I don't know how the pay-to-play auditions go, but something I took as gospel from Bill was to do at least 10 auditions a day on ACX, and it worked. Well, yeah, if you want to do audiobooks, then yeah, you can do as many auditions as you want on ACX. Just filter the type of book that you want and then, do your read. But yeah, I mean, just the law of averages. We talked about it the other day. The more of those you do, the better chances you have of winning an audition, no matter where that audition is coming from. It could be coming from, getting them on ACX, pay to play, agency, direct, to a production house. Charlie says, I forgot to mention that I just received your book. It's a wealth of information. This is the shot in the arm I need to buckle down and get this thing going. Oh, you're welcome, Charlie. Thank you. I'm glad you liked it. It's, like I said, it's the book I wish I had when I first jumped back into this after that break. So, yeah. Marlene says, AI, don't do the crime if you can't do the time. Okay. Denise says, would you quote a per finished hour rate for a podcast, even if the job is 8 to 9 minutes? Potential for ongoing work. Or I guess you're asking what you would quote. 8 to 9 minutes for a podcast. Are these intros? Are they like podcast intros and outros or what? I just base those usually on the number of words and the usage. So I would just use the GVAA site for that. I'm sure there's a podcast section on there. They try to cover most everything. Let's see. Andrew says, speaking of the Fiverr course, we don't get our own Q&A, just that one that was already completed. Correct. Yeah. The pre-recorded Fiverr course had the original or the initial class and then about 30-ish minutes of Q&A after. So yeah, all those questions will hopefully be questions that you would have as well, and you can learn from those. But those are definitely in there. There's Ethan from Toronto. Howdy to you. And Marlene says, Sam Elliott in The Big Lebowski. Yeah, that's right. He played the stranger in Big Lebowski. We actually watched that a few nights ago, my wife and I. Love me some Sam Elliott. I could just listen to him read the phone book. Actual podcast job script is 1,300 words received in. Okay, so I don't understand what a podcast job is. Is it just you reading? I mean, that sounds. Just check it up on GVAA, Denise. I'm not even sure how that would work. That doesn't sound like a podcast to me. If you're just reading 1,300 words, a 1,300 word script, I'm not sure how that would translate to a podcast if it's just you reading. It doesn't, unless they're just going to put it on a podcast. I don't know. That sounds kind of weird. Sorry, I don't have more info on that. Dennis says, love Sam Elliott's voice. Another favorite of mine, Morgan Freeman. Yep, those are the two most, I would say, most requested celebrity, sound-alikes in directions. Looking for a Sam Elliott sound or a Morgan Freeman sound. Yeah, those are definitely two of the most requested. Wow, we went long today, guys. All right, well, I've got some radio stuff to do once again, so I'm going to get on it. But hope you have all a great weekend, and I'll see you back here on Monday where, once again, I'm going to be announcing what this month's live masterclass is going to be about. We had 3 or 4 guesses for Upwork, but we'll have to wait until Monday to find out. So, again, have a great weekend. I'll talk to you very soon. Until then, break a lip.